not do if you carry one of these for self-defense. Don't do this with baton self-defense, especially the expandable baton. And the first thing is super simple, it makes sense. Don't carry it unless you have researched the laws in the municipality, the city that you live in, or the county, the state, the country that you live in, and make sure that you are even allowed to carry it. A lot of places does not allow this. A lot of countries will not allow this, and you will have it taken away at the least and possibly go to jail if you carry one of these. So make sure, first of all, hello from New Zealand, Mac. Make sure you can carry one of these if you're going to use one for self-defense. The second thing that I want you to do with your expandable baton especially is know when you should open it and when you should leave it closed. I personally, when I train with these, when I teach people how to use these, when you take it out, if you immediately put it in this position, then just like any other self-defense tool, you better be ready to use it. So don't draw it and expand it until you're ready to use it. If it's in this position and you start to swing at somebody, you might misunderstand the scenario, the situation that you're in, and you might be using too much force and put yourself in danger. Hello, Alita, it's good to see you. So I'm gonna try to close it on the floor. Because I have the mats, it's a little bit harder, so I wanna move back because it's always making holes in the floor. Now, so when you first carry this, depending on how you carry it, you might carry this. Hello, Billy, it's good to see you. Billy said he had one several years ago. Ian says he prefers the gray man option of a walking cane or umbrella. I also prefer that. Understand that in a lot of places, if you carry this and you have a concealed carry weapons permit, you're allowed to carry this concealed, like in a bag or under your clothes. If not, then you can't conceal this. So you might be allowed to carry it where you live, but understand, again, go back to the first thing that you should never do with the expandable baton is conceal it if you're not allowed to conceal it, not hide it, because it is considered to be a weapon that could cause death. It's considered to be a deadly weapon. It's less lethal than one of these, but it's still pretty lethal depending on how you use it. When you carry this, when you pull it out, if you're ready to defend yourself, you either carry it on the outside or it's somewhere that somebody can see if that's what you have to do. You can then strike in this position, coming straight forward. You can still use this for self-defense, coming in here, swinging here, smashing down here, so you don't necessarily have to open it. But when you do open it, oh, there we go. Couldn't get it out there for a second. When you do open it, make sure that, hello, Matthew, it's good to see you. Make sure that you know how to use it properly. And this is something you should never do. This does not work with this baton, especially. Any baton, any stick that you use for self-defense won't work if you don't know how to strike properly with it. And when you watch most people who use these, even people who've been trained, they often are throwing their strikes far away from their shoulder, far away from the center line, which means that it's a big, sloppy, wide strike, which makes it much weaker. It feels stronger if you're coming through and striking like that. It feels that way, but it's just like a bad punch. It might feel strong to the person throwing it, but the person taking the punch, it has no power. It doesn't do anything. It's not going to stop them. You know how to throw a punch, and you keep it in that center line. You throw from the hips and the shoulders, and you turn, you extend, and you turn the shoulders and hips, and then you step into it. You can knock somebody out if you know how to throw a punch. The same is true with your expandable baton or any other stick that you use for self-defense. It should always come through your center line, which means coming off of your shoulder in each one of these basic strikes in this position. If you're going to the knee, if you're going to the wrist, to the arm, maybe you're going for a joint, you're going for the temple or the jaw for self-defense, you have to bring all your strikes through your center line, which means coming off of your shoulder. If it's outside of your center line, if it's off the shoulder and it's this wide strike, it's going to be ineffective. It's not going to hit very hard. It's going to feel strong to you if you're inexperienced, but it's not going to work. And then if they know how to close that distance, we're going to say this is the bad guy, and he comes through here, your arm wraps all the way around him, or he comes in like this and knows how to let your arm bounce off of his, then he's in too close. He's got a stabbing weapon. You're in big trouble. He's going to get straight through your defenses. But if you know how to fight with it, you come from your shoulders, come down to the knees, wherever you're striking on top, coming through even horizontally, you keep it as tight into your body as you possibly can. And the only way you're going to be able to do that is to practice with it. So another thing that you never do, if you decide that you want to carry one of these, and I know a lot of people, these are becoming very popular because the world is seemingly more crazy and dangerous and people are panicking. So they pick these up thinking that they would be able to automatically defend themselves. All they have to do is pull it out, snap it, and then all of a sudden they can fight. They can't. You can't if you don't train with it. So if you do carry one of these, you want to make sure that you know how to get into a better position, 1 foot forward, 1 back, a bladed stance, making yourself a smaller target. Get the stick in front of your body. Always fight behind your sticks. The same is true with the expandable baton. Always fight from behind your sticks, and then make sure that you're coming through in these tight angles. Practice, practice, practice. If you don't practice your angles when you go to pull it out to defend yourself, you're going to be making those big mistakes. You might be able to hit somebody and they might back up just because they see it, but if somebody really means to do you harm, and especially if they've been in many fights, they've seen these before, they're just going to take it away from you and you're going to get hit with your own stick. So learn how to practice, make a commitment if you are going to carry one of these to get yourself the right amount of training and to practice it over and over and over. Now, the other thing that I don't want you to ever do with your expandable baton is just focus on these basic strikes. That can get you lost and stuck, especially if somebody gets really close and tight and takes away your ability to spin or to swing into these strikes. You have to know how to put your other hand on it and smash it through his face. From here, if he's too close, you can now use it this way. You can use it this way coming in. You can smash here. You can bring the top down here, smashing on top of his head. I didn't have it out very strong, but popping it down here, sticking it in his chin, sticking it in his throat, sticking it at the top right here. From this position, pushing, you can bring it down into the groin. You can bring the strikes down with a quick twist of your wrist into his knee from here. So don't get stuck only training these basic strikes coming off of the shoulder and coming down. These are so popular. They're very common. Everybody likes to teach these, but also learn how to use other parts of the stick. Have to do this like this. Billy John says, have you ever used a slingshot like a monkey paw? No, Billy, I played around with them. The monkey paw, comes here and you put it in your palm and it's got like a hard nut inside, or usually a cue ball, or like a lead piece of shot or a round metal ball. And then you weave your string around it and then you can pop it out and smack somebody. Makes sense, it looks like it would work. Like I said, I've played around with them, but I've never really used it for self-defense. Now, on this friction style baton, they make different kinds too. You can see that it's not out very hard. I can't push it in with my hand if it were. But with this type of baton, when it is all the way out and you do go to slam into somebody's stomach, as long as you've opened it correctly, you're going to be able to do these two-hand thrusting strikes into the center of their body. When I did it before, it collapsed a little bit, but that was only because I didn't properly open it. So if you do carry one of these, make sure that you practice, and when you pull it out, you know how to get it all the way open. Hello, G. Carlton, good to see you. G. Carlton said he's been watching the Musashi lessons with the baton. They're great ways to use this. Using it a lot like you would a traditional sword. Those are all very effective, and a lot of people are teaching how to use this baton based on Kali, Eskrima, Arnis sticks, and that stuff is all really good. But I also want you to not forget that you can use it like a basic stick. The guy can be behind you and you can smash it into his face, smash it into his groin, bring it down on top of his head, smacking. Don't forget that it's basically just a stick. It's easy to trick yourself into thinking that you have to use this only in the ways that Monadnock or ASP or whatever the courses are that people like to take and teach, that you have to use it just only with those spinning strikes. And those are effective. I'm not taking anything away from that. Those all work. But also learn or train yourself, remind yourself that at the end of the day, it's a stick and it works just like any other stick. It's very effective. So going back to the beginning, make sure that you can carry this where you live. There are a lot of places that say you cannot have this. So it's one of the weapons. I don't teach for self-defense all the time, but you've been asking me about this. I'm getting requests almost weekly for videos on how to use the expandable baton, because it occurs to you, and this makes total sense to me, that with all of the knifing attacks, all of the violent street fight, all the craziness that's happening in the world around us now, common citizens like ourselves, people who follow the rules, who want to go about your life, just be safe and protect your family, that we want to be able to carry other things, and we can't all carry one of these for self-defense. If you can, that's great, but you should also have other options. And this is a good option for some people, but it's not my first choice. Like you said at the beginning of the video, your favorite choice is my favorite choice, which is the gray man option. This looks like I went out looking for a fight. This looks like I was terrified, I was afraid, and then now I got to go to court and I have to explain to the judge or the jury or whomever has my life hanging in the hands, their balance of their justice or whatever they think justice is. It's not a system I'm a big fan of, but I have to now try to defend myself legally because I used one of these to defend myself physically. I would much rather have because my hips hurt all the time, I've been carrying these more often. I have mine in the car all the time, and then I can bring this. I've got reach advantage. I can create a lot more power just using one of these. Yeah, and Alita says also prefer the walking stick. That's another great option. The 36-inch walking stick, the 54 or 50-inch walking stick, whichever makes sense to you based on your height. You know, the hanbo with the Japanese, or Okinawan hanbo, which is the shorter one, the jo, which is the medium size, and some people prefer the bow staff, which is a little bit longer. And I even like the tanbo, which is the 18-inch, and they're all just a simple piece of wood, and I think they look a lot less threatening and a lot less like you're looking for a fight. But depending on where you live, it might make sense to you that you do want to carry one of these because this is more menacing. You don't want to have the gray man option. You do want somebody to say, oh, don't mess with that guy. He really wants to defend himself. I'm not going to mess with that guy. I missed that comment about carrying one on the belt. You had retired 23 years ago. And that's another good point. I'm glad that you brought that up. Most law enforcement officers will say, and I carried the PR-24 when I was a military policeman, and I did use it, but just for a come-along technique one time, because they're very effective that way. If you know how to use it and you've practiced, it did work. With one of those, PR-24 is the side handle baton. My favorite way to use it is to hold it in this position so that the short side is coming out of the bottom so that they can't grab. And now I'm wrestling, trying to keep it out of their hand. And from here, just stick it right into his stomach, right into that thin muscle between the belly button and the privates. When it's open properly, it should take that kind of force. You can do the same thing with this though. If you have this on your belt, what I was gonna say was most police officers that I talk to, every police officer that I've talked to in the last 10, 15 years, everyone have said the same thing. I won't take mine out because I don't like the look of it. I don't want the liability. I don't want to go to jail. I don't want to get in trouble. So they don't even take them out because everybody's seen those videos where you get a guy who's high on drugs or he's mentally ill, and cops are just banging these things off of their head, off their arms, and it's ineffective. And you see all the Antifa idiots, I'll just say it, the globalist thugs, war, those guys who really don't know how to fight, so they carry things like this, and they're using it completely ineffectively, having it taken away from them, having it used on them. So a lot of people either won't take this out if they have them on. Yeah, Matthew says in New Jersey, it's very illegal. Most places it is illegal. Most states it's illegal. And then in certain cities it's illegal. You can't carry this in Great Britain. You can't carry it in Ireland. You can't carry it, I don't think you can carry it in Germany. Eric says, nice to catch live. Thank you, Eric, for being here. But what I was gonna say was, if you do carry it, you can also use it. These small motions, just quick, fast, explosive, right into, again, between the belly button and the private parts, that thin muscle that holds your guts in. And you get a tear in there, and your looks like your knuckles are sticking outside your shirt. If you've ever seen a hernia, I've seen plenty. That's what it looks like. It looks like a bunch of knuckles hanging on the inside of your guts as your guts are sticking out. But what happens is if you hit that muscle, turning your shoulders and hips, extend into, you can put somebody on the ground really, really fast. Billy says depends on the county in Washington State. That's not surprising, I should say. Yeah, that really hurts. You stick it right there. Here, you can stick it anywhere in there. You can bring it right into his, knock his wind out, and I can't breathe. This would be a fatal strike. Be careful with that one. Come up under the chin, stick it right into his teeth, into his nose, all while it's closed, right? You can swing it around here, hit him in the temple, hit him in the neck, break the ribs, come into the thigh. Maybe you're sitting, and you just jab him there. And then when you bring it out, now you're ready to use it more as it was originally designed. It was designed to be low profile, easier for a police officer to carry. As it sits in your duty belt, then you can whip it out. And I think, and I don't know if this is correct, this is just what I learned. When I was a young military policeman, I think it was the Air Wing in the Marine Corps, they started carrying, they always had better gear than we did. They carried a 9mm. I had my 45, the 1911. I have one now for self-defense. But it's just, I like it a lot better just because it's like a bigger hammer. And the same thing was true with the PR-24. PR-24 was a big, bulky, you had to get out of the car, stick it in. When you get in the car, you got to take it out. And so this replaced the need. I think the Japanese started to carry these first. Yeah, and Ruru says likes the wooden sticks. And the wooden sticks to me are a throwback to the straight baton that I think is far superior to one of these. You get even just the weight of these, and this is a monadnock made in the country of Taiwan, in the great country of Taiwan. This is the monadnock expandable baton. ASP makes them. There's a lot of different brands that make them now. I've been told that in Europe, they're more push button, and other places, it's just in the United States, we still have these friction style. And I don't know which is better because I've never used them. Michael says used to carry an aluminum LED flashlight. Yes, the flashlight I think is a far superior choice for self-defense than one of these. Especially the flashlight, you can blind somebody, especially if it's at night. If it's bright enough, blind them during the day. The old aluminum ones, you would turn it on, and then if you needed to, you could strike. I've heard that could be a fatal strike. And this is just one option, right? For those people who prefer to carry one of these, I did want to make this video today to talk about what you shouldn't do with it. And the main thing, I added a couple things in there, just talk about them, but the main thing that you should never do with your expandable baton or any other stick is have a wild, untrained, sloppy strike that comes from outer space and tries to take somebody out. You have to learn how to fight behind your stick, no matter what the stick is. Learn how to fight and always keep the stick between you and the threat, and keep it in your center line so you can strike them through their center line, and then your strikes are going to be a lot more effective than this. Because if you do this even one time as you're coming, and then the other thing that you see people do is out of fear and anxiety, they run into the strike, and as they're swinging, the other person's running in, and then their arm just wraps right around. Somebody knows how to block or just instinctively blocks. All of a sudden, you don't even hit them with your stick. They smash you in the face, or worse yet, they've got a bladed weapon or a puncture weapon, and you're punctured 122 times before you even get your second strike in. And then this is on the ground. Somebody picks it up and said, that was a shame. That's just a story I made up. I don't know. Anyway, Ian says, thanks for real education. Facts, not fiction. And you know what? Don't always. My caveat is that everything that I say is not right. Everything that anybody says is not right. There are a lot of platitudes. There's always, if something is one way, it can always be another way. That's the dual nature of the world, right? The yin yang, everything that can be strong, can be soft, hot, can be cold. All that stuff is true. So take everything that I say and anybody else says, especially experts here on YouTube or anywhere else. We've all been wrong. I've been wrong probably as many times as I've been right. So, and if I'm wrong and I find that I'm wrong, I'll be the first one to admit, because that's the only way that I can grow and learn. So, learn what you know. Bruce Lee always said, take everything in and then take what's useful and the rest you can discard it. And that's true. Always learn something new, learn something that works for you. and then train it, practice it, try it yourself, see if it works, and then pressure test it. Pressure test means if you learn some techniques and you have a friend who's willing to help you, and you can use some common sense and not, instead of this, use a foam stick or something, have them come at you and see what works and see what doesn't work, and see what makes sense and what doesn't make sense. But don't just take everything as gospel because someone like me said it or someone like anybody said it. We're all wrong and we're all right? And you know as much as I do. That's why I love this global community. When you guys add comments in the comment section, I'll often learn something I hadn't even thought about before. Yeah, Alita says, love that Bruce Lee quote. Take everything in. I forget how it goes. You can put that in the comment section if anybody knows the correct quote. But yeah, at least Ian Simmons says, trust the education. No one is perfect. Yeah, no one's perfect. I'm not perfect. You're not perfect. I say this all the time. I don't know. You don't know. Only God knows. And I say that mostly in reference to what can you do? I don't know what you can do. I don't know what I can do. Only God knows. So don't limit yourself and try to learn everything you can. Learn what works. And then when you find certain things, some things will be just on their face absurd and you can dismiss it. So you don't have to waste all your time training. I'm not going to say the styles, but there are some things out there. If you look at them, you think that's silly. Well, I'll say one like the dim mock, right? I'll tell you right now, there's no death touch. There's no throwing your energy and knocking the guy back. That doesn't exist. That's all fake. You can't defend yourself with Tai Chi. There's no Tai Chi master that can beat a boxer. You can learn Tai Chi and be a great fighter and then apply the Tai Chi skills into the fighting, and that might work. But just using the Tai Chi, that's not going to stop someone when they come up and they know how to punch you in the face. You better learn how to parry and block and slip and jab and cover. You better learn how to fight. So, so we'll do the Kubaton. Alita says we'll add the Kubaton pretty soon. You guys have been awesome. I'll see you on the next one. I think the next one we're going to do is on the sword. I'm going to start to bring in the boken. I have a challenge for you. I want you to practice with me. If you have a boken, if you don't have a boken, boken is just a wooden sword, Japanese sword, training sword. It's a practice sword. It's not the bamboo. It's usually made out of oak. And we're just going to practice because I think it's good for your shoulders. It's good for your forearm. It's good for the basics. And it's good for keeping all your strikes in your center line. So we're going to do the boken challenge, and we're going to do that pretty soon. Thank you very much.